Hello, welcome into WLOY, Loyola Radio, streaming online at WLOY.org and Campus TV channel 111.1. You're listening to After the Whistle, Loyola's premier sports talk radio show, airing every Monday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Welcome into our first show of the month of March. I am your host today, Jeffrey Bozzi, alongside my co-host, Jimmy Cody. Jimmy, how are you feeling on this Friday?
I'm all right. I'm excited for spring break to start. Obviously, that's going to be starting up here next week. College basketball, we're going to be in the championship week. That's always a really fun week with the conference championship. Some of them have already started, obviously, like the Patriot League, and then some of the smaller conferences like the Ohio Valley, etc. So that's exciting. Baseball, we're getting closer to the World Baseball Classic starting soon. So that's, I guess, another exciting thing. Although I've been on the record saying I don't really care. I don't really find it that exciting just because I don't know, there's not really any history to it, or it's not like the World Cup, but those are still, big events that are coming up. And I guess we look forward to that. Actually, you know what else I'm excited for? The Kentucky Derby prep races have started too. So I'm excited for that as well because we're less than 70 days away from the fastest 2 minutes in sports.
Slowly creeping up on us.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's a lot going on right now with the World Baseball Classic coming up next week. We have spring training starting. We have the NBA and NHL seasons kind of in the heart of their seasons. And we have some interesting off the field storylines with the NFL, with Aaron Rodgers and potential free agents and all that stuff.
Did you see he's making a podcast episode out of the his whole retreat?
I did not.
Yeah, he turned it into basically like a media get up thing where he's doing a podcast with some guy. I don't really know what his name was, but he posted it on his Instagram story. And it's just like, this guy's just such a sucker for the attention. I swear that's why he does it. The whole thing is just for the attention.
I would be actually very interested to listen to that.
So would I. That's the problem. He knows that everybody would be interested because he's just so I don't he's so opposite of everybody else. You know what I mean? That's just kind of his personality. And he is a good football player. Obviously, he's won quite a few MVPs. So that's what gains the interest. And also, I've never heard of anybody else just sitting in the complete dark for 4 days.
Right. I feel like for him to make something that private public would be crazy. And the reports were saying that he was going to do this to try to gather his thoughts and basically decide on whether he's going to play next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just felt like this year might be more of a storyline. I don't know.
Well, I felt like last year was a big storyline too, because remember, it was like, is he going to be traded to Denver at the time? It had been because had Hackett and went there, but now it's kind of the same thing as like, is he going to go to the Jets? But then there's also the threat of the Raiders, although I don't really see that just because of the way their team is. I know he's favorited to go there, but I find that weird. But still, the whole point is it's just very up in the air, and it's just amazing to me that he could say all this stuff, be so public, yet not have the decision that everybody's waiting for.
Right. And I'm not sure if you saw this report from earlier in the week, but I'm not sure if it was Josh McDaniels or the Raiders management, but one of them said that they're not going to go after him because they want to keep their draft picks.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, but the way the Raiders are, no, I didn't see that, but I agree with that kind of movement for the Raiders. Like that's probably a much better way. They would have to give up a lot of pieces because they're probably gonna have to give up a player. They're definitely gonna have to give up picks. Like the Packers are gonna want something in return because having Aaron Rodgers on your team, you're going for a championship, right? Like you don't have Aaron Rodgers on your team at this age for no reason.
Yeah. No, I feel like he's thinking, oh, if I stay in Green Bay, I mean, I know what I have here. I know the people well, blah, blah, blah. But
it seems
I don't know.
Ready to move on, though. I don't know if you saw Matt LaFleur yesterday. He was saying or not Matt LaFleur, I'm sorry, their GM, whatever his name is. And he was talking about, but Matt LaFleur has been on the record saying,
I think the GM is Brian Gutekunst.
Yeah, I didn't know what his last name was. Gutekunst. Okay. Yeah, that guy, he was saying at the combine yesterday that Jordan Love looks really good based on what they see, and they think that he's somebody who could be a starting quarterback, which makes sense for a guy who was picked in the first round. Remember way back when Jordan Love was a first round pick and everybody said the Packers didn't know what they were doing? Well, now they essentially have this quarterback controversy, which it's going to be very interesting to see how it folds out. Me personally, I think Aaron Rodgers retires. I just can't see him doing this anymore. He just seems like he's more interested in the other side outside of football than he is football.
I agree. He seems a little checked out, and I'm not sure if that's from playing or playing for the Packers. I think that's the question.
Well, I don't know if it's the Packers because I never really felt like the Packers were like a dramatic situation. I always kind of just felt like it was him. And it's so funny because earlier in his career, everybody compared like how he was to Favre, but at the and all we heard is like how much they were opposites or whatever. We're hearing that at the end of their careers, they are the exact same. Neither of them wants to give up the spot to the next guy who's behind them, which is, if you're a great quarterback, I get that. I wouldn't either. But it's just kind of funny looking back on it, how they're kind of the exact same.
They are. And it's funny because I feel like there has been a little bit of drama with Rodgers and the Packers management, but I don't think it's been too blown out of proportion. It's just more so I think they failed so many times in the playoffs. They've been one seeds, they've gotten to NFC
It's
championships,
the conference
and
championship
they just
losses.
haven't gotten over the hump since they did back in 2010 when they won the whole thing. But it's just been the same thing year after year after year. And then they finally missed the playoffs last year when they lost that game to Detroit at home. But I just
Yeah.
think, I don't know, those past failures, it just keeps happening. It's repeating itself. I just felt like maybe he's tired of that. I don't know. It's a weird situation.
No, it's a very weird
We don't really
situation.
know what he thinks. I mean, we kind of do, but we also kind of don't. We could guess, but we also can't put words in his mouth.
We have no idea.
He's been
We really
very,
haven't.
I don't know if shady's the word, but
Private.
he's been very private about it.
Yeah, he's been closed off about his whereabouts.
Hence him going into the room for 4 days.
Yeah. And that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. But we have some other interesting storylines I'd like to get into. I don't know about you, Jeff, but let's talk about last night's Loyola Maryland versus Colgate game. Unfortunately, that was the end of our season. 92-73 loss. And it's obviously disappointing because I feel like it's just Colgate gets us again, right?
Yeah, you run into the team at the top, and it's a tough team like Colgate. I mean, it's hard to go up there and win, but I don't know. I was just watching last night, and it's just tough when you get down early. I mean, we just couldn't score early on. We couldn't really stop them either. They were making shots, credit to them, but
Yeah, they shot 50% from three. So
early on, they were just raining threes all over the court, whether it was Tucker Richardson or Oliver Lynch Daniels. And then inside, they were giving it to Keegan Records and Jeff Woodward. I mean, they just have so many guys that they can rely upon to score. And it's just tough when you give up 51 in the first half.
We didn't even mention the leading scorer for the game for Colgate, Braden Smith, who also had 19. Every starter was in double figures. That's so tough to defend when five guys are just in unison on offense.
Yeah. And I think the issue with our offense last night is, listen, the players are going to run the Princeton offense with the movement and the dribble handoffs. So sometimes I feel like whenever it breaks down, you kind of just rely on one guy to go ISO and play hero ball. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. And last night, it unfortunately did not work more often than it did work. And also, I feel like recently, Deion Perry's kind of stepped up as the guy. He's been awesome in the month of February, especially. He's kind of come out of nowhere with these 20-point games, knocking down threes. Unfortunately, he didn't have it last night. He only had 5 points. And I thought early on he was pressing a little bit. And it sucks because he's not the biggest guy, but he can get a shot off. But last night he had 2 threes blocked. And I just thought, oh, this is going to be a sign of bad things to come. And other guys did step up. I mean, Kenny had 13, Golden had 17, Jalen had 12, but there just wasn't enough firepower there. Not just offensively, but defensively, especially. I thought the defense was the main reason for losing this game. It's just tough though when, I don't know, you're daring the other team to shoot threes and they're just knocking them down left and right.
Yeah, there's just so many things here that just made it completely incapable of us for winning this game. First, they just shot amazing. Like if they're gonna make shots, there's really nothing.
You just got to tip your cap.
They put up 92 points. 73 is not a bad game. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I ideally I think if the Hounds put up like 75 to 80 points every game, I would give them a really good chance.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is when the other team puts up 92, that gives us absolutely no chance, no matter if we score anything under 92. So it definitely started on the defensive end of the floor just because they sag shots. They also out rebounded us. That's been like kind of a theme recently. It's like we're getting killed on the boards, and it wasn't by much, but still it was enough. And just at the end of the day, it just feels like the same thing all over again. I mean, we lose to these guys our sophomore year. in the 2021 Patriot League Championship, and that sucked. And then we lose to him again here. It's just like I'm so tired of seeing Colgate basketball beat Loyola, and it was just unfortunate. That's the whole thing I want to say about that. But about the actual game itself, you hit the nail right on the head, Jeffrey. Dion Perry only having 5 points was a total killer, especially when somebody who has given us 20 on some other nights. And you know what kind of stinks too? We didn't really get that scoring from anywhere else. I mean, yeah, Golden had 17, but he kind of contributes anywhere from like 8 to 10 a game. That's only 9 extra points, you know, but it's really not that many extra points because that's still around his range, especially because he had a very good game. Just overall, he had some assists, some rebounds, and he was pretty efficient shooting. It was 8 of 12, so that's what you can ask for out of him. But at the end of the day, we just didn't make the shots that Colgate did, and that was ultimately, I felt like, the difference.
Yeah, we just couldn't keep up. I mean, once we got down, it's just hard to come back against a team that's constantly going to put pressure on you when they score. And the fact that they don't have really one main guy. I mean, I guess Tucker Richardson's the main guy, but you can go down low, you can kick it back out, and they have 3-point shooters. It's just so hard to defend. And also, too, in our win against Holy Cross on Tuesday, I thought Alonzo Faure was a big factor, especially when he came in later in the game because Golden DK had foul trouble and then he fouled out, and he really stepped up. But he had an off night last night with only 6 points. But yeah, I think this is more about the defense. I think 73 is a pretty respectable number. I mean, you're going to probably win most games in college basketball, I think, with 73 points. A lot of points.
Yeah.
It's just tough, though, when you have to stop these big men who are just outclassing you every way. I mean, they're just so skillful. And then the guards can shoot and they can penetrate. It's just too much to handle.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's just a separation between Colgate and almost every other team in the Patriot League, it seems like. And I would be frankly shocked if Colgate did not win. I would be shocked.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, it's theirs to lose, but that still gives them more pressure, but it doesn't really seem like it plays in any way.
Oh, no way.
I mean, how many years in now have they been just running through? The last 3?
Yeah. I mean, ever since we've been here, they've been the cream of the crop.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure our freshman year, BU actually won the tournament.
They did.
And they never got to go because it was COVID.
Right. They definitely got unlucky with that. But you're right. Colgate's definitely the class of the league. I mean, it shows in their conference record. They were 17-1 in the conference. They only lost to American on the road, I believe, which was about a month ago. But interestingly, and this actually definitely helps Colgate, the 2 and 3 seeds lost last night.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. American went down to Navy and they pulled out a 1-point win. And then Lafayette went up to Lehigh. That's another huge rivalry in the Patriot League. Lafayette squeaked out of there with a 7-point win. And then Army handled their business squeaking by BU. So it's kind of wide open right now. It's kind of just Colgate and then a lot of teams that are kind of in the middle. So I wonder if one of those 3 teams can knock them off. We've seen American do it once, so they know they can do it. But I agree. I would be very surprised if Colgate did not advance to March Madness, especially too, because they have home court advantage. Someone's going to have to come in there and beat them on their home floor. That's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really tough for anybody. I mean, obviously, we just saw how hard it was for the Hounds. And the difference between the Patriot League and some of these other conferences is that we don't play on a neutral site. We
Right.
play at home.
It's all at the campus sites.
Yeah.
Which is unique.
Which is unique, and that's a huge advantage for Colgate by far because they are in the most unavailable location to get to by far in the Patriot League. Like, okay, you got West Point, right? Like that's just a straight shot from New York City out. We got Loyola, it's in Maryland, it's right in the heart of Baltimore. We got all these other schools really kind of, I feel like, in the same place. And then you have Colgate all the way up in New York in the middle of nowhere. And God, I mean, it's so challenging to get there to begin with. Like the travel for a team like a Navy or American or Loyola is tough to begin with.
Right.
And this just makes it so much tougher when they're also a really, really, really good team.
Also, since we played Tuesday, it was a quick turnaround. They knew right away, oh, we have to go all the way up to Colgate to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe playing Tuesday could be a little bit of an advantage for Loyola just because they would have been a little bit of pressure. Because Colgate, I think, was coming in on 5 days rest, and we were coming in off 1 day rest. But no, it did not matter.
No, it definitely did not matter.
Yeah, it's tough, but I'm sure that, I don't know, going into the offseason, we're going to lose some guys, but hopefully Tavares Hardy and company can work things out, bring in new recruits, and guess we'll start from scratch next year.
Yeah, so I would think right now, we know for a fact we're definitely gonna lose Jalen and Kenny because they're gone. And there's Chance Golden comes back for a fifth year. So I guess that's a positive for the Hounds. Alonzo will be back, barring any decisions he makes. Dion, same thing, unless he makes a decision to go elsewhere. But for the sake of the team, I feel like there is a core here. I do feel like we have some guys who've been playing regular minutes, especially with the three that could possibly be on the team next year. They're all starters. It's nice to have a point guard too going into next season. We know Dion's going to be like essentially the guy with the
Right.
ball.
And I think the other plan too, and this is a nice thing to have, Chris Kazemka kind of emerged a little bit, so he's definitely going to be in the fold.
And you know what else we're going to have too? The Illich twins will be healthy.
That's going to be huge.
They were
impactful there last
So
season.
yeah, let's think about it this way. We had 4 players over 6'10", and we lost half of them. So we really only had 2.
Yeah.
So that's a brutal kind of combo. And then we'll have some other contributors from the bench as well. Like you mentioned, Chris Kuzemka, a bunch among others, but he's definitely going to have to step up with some guards leaving. So it'll be very interesting to see who steps up in the next couple of years for the Hounds. And listen, definitely comes down to recruiting, but it also comes down to just playing a little bit better. I feel like we had the talent in a lot of games and we just made some mistakes too. It's just about being more consistent. And you got to build that over time. And, credit to the coach. I feel like the team has gotten better as the season gone on, and that's tough when you have a veteran team because it's so easy to just have everybody throw in the cap and be like, well, this season to watch, especially with the way we started. And I feel like in conference play the last couple of years, we kind of always get off to a cold start. So I feel like that's going to have to be something that we look to improve a little bit because I always feel like we're not getting going really until like February, and that's already a whole month, and that's just not good enough. And just in a conference like this, we see how with the losses that we had that were so close, how they put us in kind of a bad situation in the championship, like the tournament. And maybe if we had won more of those games, we would have had a little bit of an easier path. Not saying we would have beat Colgate. I don't know if that would happen, but I just definitely think in general, it could have been a more successful year had we just made some smarter plays at times.
Yeah. I think going into next year, you would like to see the Hounds with a little more of a sense of urgency. And I think that starts with coaching, but I also think it's on the players too. Like you said, we know they can be better. We've seen flashes of them playing really well, especially in February. Like you said, they really turned on the Jets in February, and they had a pretty good finish to the year, winning, I think, 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the stretch was. And they ended up winning a playoff game, and then they fell at Colgate. But yeah, there's some good things that they can build on for sure. And I know that we just talked about basketball team losing to Colgate. And unfortunately, our other basketball team, the women's team, they lost to Colgate on Wednesday. But that was in a regular season game. They unfortunately took a loss 64-50 on Wednesday night. But now they head into Patriot League tournament play, and they will go up to Lafayette to face off against the Lafayette Leopards on Saturday at 4:00 in Easton, PA. But I'm looking here, Lex Tarian again, 23 points and 9 rebounds on Wednesday. She just continues to just dominate.
And it's worth mentioning too, obviously this is our first playoff game that we have, but we beat Lafayette not too long ago. We had a home game, or we had an away game. We went up to Lafayette and we beat them on the 15th of December, or of February. I don't know why I said December. I saw the 2 and the 5. I started thinking about Christmas. I'm sorry. Yeah. February 15th. Yeah. So it was a 66-55 win, and we need more of that. Obviously, this is a winnable game for us, so that's something to be excited about, right? I feel like the women's team has been playing a lot better recently, especially really, Lex has been carrying the team, especially with the points. She's been a beast. There's no other way to say it. I mean, she had 23 the other day, and then she's also putting up 9 boards, like you're saying, Jeff. I mean, that's what you need every night, and she does it. She's very consistent too. I feel like she really does not ever have a bad night.
No, she's always going to be in the double-double, I think, conversations. She's always going to be a double-double threat every night she goes out on the court. And I think the key going to this game is I'm looking at the box score from February 15th win at Lafayette. You see that Talia Dixon had 20 and Bree Rossi had 10, and then Kelly Radigan also added 9 and Devin Newman with 8. We need the other ladies to step up because I think some of them did step up Wednesday in some fashion. Devin Newman had 9, Talia Dixon had 8, Kelly Radigan was 7, but I think we need a little more. I mean, they could, I don't know, do probably the same thing, but we probably need, I don't know, another player or two to kind of be around 10 points, or unless they go up for maybe a point range in the teens. I just need a little more scoring.
Absolutely, I agree with the scoring, but you know what the biggest impact was in that game? Lex having 20 boards.
Yeah.
She had 20 rebounds. That's insane. That was half the team's rebounds.
And
Like,
then
just on her.
to go off of that, you're looking at the box score from Wednesday night. She had 9, which is not a bad number, but no one else in the team had more than 3. 3 ladies each had 3 rebounds, but you need more boards than that. You can't be giving away extra possessions to other teams.
Yeah, and that's ultimately like the fundamentals. It's kind of like the same thing that we say about with the men's team. It's the little things that end up making a big difference. It's free throws, it's not turning the ball over, it's rebounding, it's defense, it's like the scoring will come. I always feel like that in basketball. Like you're gonna score. But if you have a really good defense, you make it a lot easier on yourself to, in case you're not really scoring well, to be in the game.
Yeah.
But that still has some problems too, because not having enough offense, as we know, will definitely be a problem. Because there's going to be nights where the other team just does not miss. But if you can at least hang your hat on the fundamentals, I feel like you have a very good chance tonight.
Yeah, and I think for the women, you want to come out in the first quarter and get Lex involved. You want to get her deep post touches, etc. But you also want to get the others involved too, because if they touch the ball and they're cutting and making assists and whatnot, playing good defense, getting steals and all that, I don't know, it gets their confidence going. You want to get them involved too, because this is a team game at the end of the day. I know that Lex is the dominant force on offense, but you need to get other ladies like Bree and Talia and Devin and Kelly all involved, because they're going to be the key players that are going to help you win, because their little contributions could go a long way.
Oh yeah,
and all of them are very capable of breaking out and putting up points in the teens, maybe even the 20s. I mean, they're all capable of doing that. I know that Lex is going to be the primary focal point for opposing defenses to focus on and for our offense's sake, but you got to get the others involved too. And I think we can do it. I mean, we've done it against this team. So I got confidence.
Absolutely. And that's where it starts. We need to defeat Lafayette on Sunday. But really, Jeff, I want to hear from you here. When it comes down to, like, say they do win this game, what's like realistically, what's the peak for the Lady Greyhounds? Like, do you think that they can really make a run here? Like, it would take a lot, we know that, but at the end of the day, I think it's just one game at a time needs to be your approach. I mean, that's the way it's got to be in March. Like, anybody can beat anybody. You just got to take it one game at a time. And I would just worry about Lafayette on Saturday, not Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. As far as your question goes, I think winning a playoff game would be definitely a good accomplishment. And I know that this team wants some more, but I think for how they've kind of navigated Patriot League play, it hasn't been the best of seasons. And I'm sure that they're aware of that. But I think winning a playoff game on the road would be a big feat. And I think if they went into a second round game against one of those teams at the top, maybe it's BU or Holy Cross, I think that we would have a little bit of house money. So I think they would kind of let it loose. I think there might be some pressure to win this game at Lafayette just because they know that they've beaten them up there before, and they know that they're kind of almost in the same playing field with them. So I definitely think there's a little bit of nerves going to this game, but I definitely think nonetheless we can win. I think the peak would be getting past, I think, the second round. I mean, if they got past the second round, that would probably be the peak. I mean, who knows what could happen from there, but I think if they win this game, though, I think the season could be deemed somewhat of a success.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely agree with that as well. And it's also worth mentioning too, today, Lex got named to the second team All Patriot League. So
very impressive feat.
very
Congratulations to Lex Tarian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we go into lacrosse, I actually wanted to break this up a little bit. I got a notification on my phone from Bleacher Report, and it's from a report by Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, and it's NFL related. So Derek Carr, he is obviously being sought after by a few teams, and he was reporting that the New York Jets are the most likely landing spot. And he added that if Aaron Rodgers does wind up back in Green Bay, the Jets should be viewed as the favorite to land Derek Carr. So I don't know, what's your first initial gut reaction to that?
I'm kind of laughing because I don't really think that brings them any closer to a championship than they currently are. Maybe at best they're a playoff team, but I still think they have a really, really tough division. And listen, Josh Allen had a very bad season. I would expect a good player like him to bounce back. He just turned the ball over, frankly, way too much
I would think that their management would also upgrade other positions.
as well. Yeah, but the Bills have some decisions to make money wise because they're already paying Josh, and they're gonna have to make some decisions on defense. Edmonds, their linebacker, is a free agent, but so is Jordan Poyer.
Yeah.
So those are two really key players, and you're probably only gonna be able to keep one of them unless you can really get somebody to probably take a discount. But I just don't know if that's gonna happen.
I saw something too. They had to figure out their number 2 wide receiver position because Gabe Davis is good. But
Gabe Davis did not quite have the season. That
do
he
you think
had
they want to
years
pay
ago.
him number 2 wide receiver money? I don't know.
I wouldn't. I think he's fairly replaceable. I think he's kind of just a product of Josh and Stephon Diggs having such a great connection that he was always so open. And I know everybody remembers him from that Kansas City game, but let's just be honest, the Kansas City defense that year was horrible.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. And it's carried by the offense. I mean, this one was carried by the offense essentially too, when you think about it. It's kind of the way they are. They kind of just hang by a thread on defense. But at the end of the day, I definitely agree with the take that Gabe Davis isn't the real reason for the success. I think he's definitely a replaceable player. So I'm not surprised to hear that they might be looking to add some.
Yeah. Going back to the Jets, I definitely think they're in a position where they could go after a veteran QB because they're kind of a team that's definitely on the rise. I mean, they showed some signs last year that
The defense is young, good.
It's
and
legit.
It's filled with potential. I don't know if I would say legit because I'm sorry, like they just give up some big plays sometimes that in really to tight ends, and I just cannot
They
believe
do.
it is bad. Their linebackers are not good at covering, and the same thing can be said for their safeties. That their corners are good, but that's
Yeah.
the areas that I think they need to.
I would take their defense though over a lot of other defenses.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It has a lockdown corner,
Like
an
they-
off-road corner.
You could debate if they're like top 5. Like they could be in that
Well, any
conversation.
Jet fan will probably tell
They're
you
definitely in
that
the top 10.
they're the best defense in the NFL. But I mean, realistically, they're probably top 10. I'll give them that. They have a great D line. That's really what it starts with. But you got to remember too, there's going to be a team that comes out of nowhere next year that we're probably not even thinking of. Like that's just football. Like nobody saw the Jets kind of taking this huge step up on defense, right? Like we knew they drafted Sauce, but really the whole team kind of stepped up. They put a lot of guys in the position to be successful. And I agree with that. That top 10.
And then as far as
But
I don't know.
the offense. So let's get back to the offense.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the real problem.
So if they want Derek Carr, I mean, he's a good player. I mean, I'm sure that would be a decent fit, but I agree. I don't know if he's going to take you to a Super Bowl, especially
No,
when you
it's
have
not.
Burrow, Mahomes, Herbert, etc. in the AFC. And I think they also need to add more pieces offensively. Listen, I love what they're doing at running back. I think they have a good situation there.
Yeah, but listen,
And I know
have-
they went through a lot of guys just because of injuries and trades.
The Brees Hall is a guarantee next year to be successful. And I'm sorry, it's just not. Off an ACL, it's not.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, you have to
You
get
don't
your
sit-
legs back and
Yeah,
stuff
you
like
don't
that.
I'm not here sitting here like, oh, Javonte's going to have 1,000 yards next season. It's going to be great. Like they announced that he's supposed to be back in time. However, I'm realistic, unlike most Jets fans, and I understand a running back coming off an ACL is not a great situation.
Right. I
So
do think
that's
they're
their best offensive player besides Garrett Wilson, and he's a very good receiver.
Mhm.
But who else is Derek Carr throwing the ball to here?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair question to bring up. But I do think the Jets' minds are in the right place just because I don't know. I think they're kind of close to maybe sniffing up there with these contenders. I'm not saying they're gonna go on a playoff run and beat Burrow and Mahomes, but I think that maybe I don't know, next year they could get in the playoffs. I mean, I think that's a reasonable outlook. I mean, that should be their goal, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And
that's gotta be
the
their goal.
thing is too, they were close
7-4.
this year.
They were 7-4 and then pissed away the rest of their season.
And I was going to get to that. They were 7-4 with all that QB mess too. He had Zach Wilson just not playing well at all. And he had Mike White come in and he was good for flashes. And then he went down with an injury and they were still in the playoff conversation in week
Streveler out
17.
They
Yeah.
had back chanting Streveler chant and headlights with all the other clowns, thinking that Streveler is going to lead them to a comeback. The quarterback situation was a nightmare.
So I think for them to go after Carr, I think that is good for them because they clearly need an upgrade there. And he would definitely provide an upgrade. I mean, Derek Carr is an average quarterback, probably slightly above average. I mean, he didn't have the
He's
best
above
year
average on
last
his
year,
best
but I think if he can get back to what he was in 2021. I mean, I'm sure they would take that.
The 2021 season's a little bit of a misconception though for Derek Carr. He didn't really throw for that many touchdowns. He really was
Right.
just kind of efficient.
Kind of a clutch player too.
Yeah.
He's really good in the clutch time.
Is he though? Because
Like that season he was.
yeah, that's true. That's a much better. That season was just a little magical there. They just kind of had that like burst where
Especially with off the field drama too, with John Gruden and Henry Ruggs,
Yeah.
etc. It's a lot.
Their defense, I thought last year was kind of the reason they were really good because their defense stepped in clutch times. Obviously, they have some great players on their defense. Max Crosby might actually be the most underrated player in the NFL. Like that is
Right.
actually not a joke. Like he is so good at rushing the passer, and he is never brought up in the same conversation as like a TJ Watt or like a Hassan Reddick.
Like a Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Myles Garrett. There's so many other guys, but he deserves to be. And I'm not saying that he's TJ Watt because I understand TJ Watt is, he just set the sack record the year before. So he has his place. But Max Crosby is very good too. And I want to give some credit to him because just the point, hit that out. But back to the Jets conversation here, specifically about Derek Carr. He had so much talent this year and they still couldn't get anything done. So he had Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is better than any player on the Jets offense. They had Josh Jacobs. You could make a case that Josh Jacobs would probably be the best player on the Jets offense too if he was on there this year because he led the NFL in rushing behind an offensive line that really wasn't that good, yet still was able to do that feat. And that's very impressive. I just don't know if Derek Carr is really going to be able to create that much success because I thought he kind of had a good situation.
He did.
I respect McDaniels as a play caller. Like, I know everybody else thinks that he's absolutely horrendous at calling plays. He's not a good head coach. The guy can call plays. Like, I noticed, especially because we play them in division, he does a very good job of manipulating the coverages, forcing you to switch, especially with the zones. And he is very good at that. Like, he can break down a defense. And Devontae Adams, to have one of the leading receivers and also have the leading rusher, that's a really good team.
Right.
That's a really good team.
It's crazy too to have the year that they had,
and they still
record
had
wise.
a guy who was leading the league in interceptions. He was the downfall of that team. So that's why I don't understand why we're having this conversation. Oh, Derek Carr is going to save the Jets. He's not. He's an above average quarterback at best. And I feel like when you have a team like the Jets, you have to do everything you can to win a title. The time is now. You're not paying a guy like Sauce. You have some young players like Garrett Wilson on offense that you're also not paying that much money yet because they're still on their rookie contracts, right? Then the defense, you're going to have to start paying some of these other guys. Quentin Williams is going to be getting big money when the time comes around because he played really good this year. Additionally, they're paying CJ Mosley a lot of money, and that guy stinks. He's still the worst coverage linebacker I've ever seen in my life. So despite the fact that he's very good in the run game, there's still some holes there. And let's also not forget the coaching decisions they've made. I'm not crazy about the Hackett offensive coordinator decision. That's who you really want calling your plays. That's who you want calling your plays. Come on.
Yeah.
That was horrible last year. And you're telling me that he's going to improve Derek Carr off Josh McDaniels? I'm sorry. No, I'm not buying that at all.
So I think we're in agreement that Derek Carr, while he would be probably a decent fit with the Jets, he's not going to
the best quarterback the Jets have had, and I don't know how
he's probably not going to ascend them to a Super Bowl caliber team. But I think another question to raise is, do you think they should go after Lamar Jackson? Like, do you think Lamar Jackson could bring them close to maybe reaching a Super Bowl?
Yeah. No,
assuming they upgrade the offensive skill players and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Lamar is totally somebody that can bring them closer to a championship. Now, here's the things. Are they giving him a fully guaranteed deal? Because if they are, that's just we're going to have the first two teams that give fully guaranteed deals be the Jets and the Browns. Yeah, okay. I'd rather not be like those two franchises, that's for sure. So I don't know if that's the best decision. But if he was on their team, I think it would totally better their offense. You could actually make a case that Garrett Wilson would be the best receiver. Actually, I don't even think this is up for discussion. Garrett Wilson would be the best receiver Lamar Jackson has ever had.
I don't think that's as crazy as it sounds.
No. It's like I'm realizing mid-thought that is absolutely the truth.
Yeah, unless you count Mark Andrews as a receiver. I know he's a tight end.
No, I'm talking about wide receivers.
Wide receivers, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. But that's a good point as well. Is like, how will Lamar be when he's in a different system with different coaching? He's not going to have his guy, Mark Andrews. It's going to be a way different offense. And also, he's going to have Hackett calling the plays, who we've already seen is a complete moron when the play calling decisions are in his hands. So I don't know if that's the best recipe for success. I really can't just get over the Hackett move. I think that's kind of my point. But I would agree, Lamar brings them closer to a championship. But the one
Like how close there? Like maybe division,
closer than Carr.
like maybe they get to the divisional round or maybe the AFC Championship.
Jeff, I don't even think it's a guarantee if they get Lamar that they make the playoffs.
That's true too. I mean,
I'm sorry,
we talked about Buffalo.
That division is good.
They're going to be in there. Miami, we didn't even bring them up. They're probably going to be running it back with that offense.
Absolutely.
And they're probably going to shore up the defense, which it isn't bad, but it isn't great.
Well, they got Fangio, and you could make the case. They gave a lot of money to Bradley Chubb last year. The only guy who's ever been successful with Bradley Chubb has been Vic Fangio. So I would be hopeful if I was a Miami.
Yeah, and then we didn't bring up the New England Patriots, and they didn't have a great year last year, but the year before they were 10-7. If they get, I don't know, their defense kind of back to what it was, if they just shore up the linebackers.
I think it's 100% always on the defense. I actually thought their offense was way more of a problem this year.
I agree, but I think for them, they have to really upgrade the wide receivers. I think that's the number one thing. They got to get Jacoby Myers back and then probably trade for one.
Yeah, so when they trade for Keenan Allen or DeAndre Hopkins, then what? Are the Jets the fourth best team in the division?
I know it's very, I don't know what the word is, but it swings one way and it swings the other way. It's all about making these chess
The gap
moves.
between those four teams is not very big.
No,
The margin for error in those divisional games is not very big. Like, it didn't surprise me that the Jets beat the Bills at home, right? Like that happens. That's football. The Commanders beat the Eagles, right?
yeah. I mean, we've seen the Dolphins beat the Patriots, but we also see the Patriots beat the Dolphins. I mean, we've seen the Bills take care of the Patriots. I mean, these teams beat up on each other year after year. But going back to Derek Carr, I know we have a minute left or so before we go to break, but yeah, could he go to the Jets? Yeah, theoretically. Would it be a good move for the Jets? Sure, but would it ascend them to the top? Probably not.
No, I disagree with that. It would not. It would definitely not bring them to the top. I think it's still questionable if they're a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams
There's
that mix
a lot of
too.
competition in the AFC.
I mean, the AFC North's a crowded division. You wouldn't think the South would be too much of a factor, but we've seen some teams creep up. And then the West has two playoff teams from last year, and then the other two teams could definitely make a run just because they have a lot of talent. So
Certainly, and they're looking to make some changes. I mean, I'm sorry, bringing in Sean Payton, that's a way different move for the Broncos. Like,
we'll see who the Raiders QB is too.
yeah,
To
I
see
mean, if
about
it's
that.
Garoppolo, if they're going with like a proven starter,
They could win 10 games.
yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
Like, it's really a lot of competition, and you can make a case that 4 teams in the AFC North can make the playoffs.
Definitely, yeah.
So
It's a crowded list of teams there,
certainly,
but it's definitely interesting. We'll see where Derek Carr ends up, but we have to go to break very quickly. But on the other side, we will talk about Loyola Lacrosse and preview the upcoming games for both teams. Hello, welcome back to WLOI, Loyola Radio, streaming online at WLOI.org and Campus TV channel 111.1. You're listening to After the Whistle with Jeffrey Bozzi and Jimmy Cody. And just as a reminder, before we get into our next segment, this will be our last show for a little while. We'll be off for 10 days because of Loyola's spring break. We'll be back on Monday, March 13th at 3 p.m. So no shows next week, unfortunately, but we have some lacrosse to talk about, Jimmy, for the final half of this show. And
I also got a funny story for you. too.
yeah, go ahead.
This is an XFL story. This is
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
The Guardians of the XFL, I think they're called the Orlando Guardians. That's the team. They cut their quarterback, whose name was Quentin Dormati, after he gave the opposing team that they were playing their playbook.
Wait,
Yes.
are you serious?
Yes. If the team heard about it, investigated it, and released the player, they've taken him completely off the XFL website. Like, there's no record of this guy.
Wow.
But that is the same coach. I don't know if you saw the viral video that was on the internet. The coach, his name was Terrell Buckley, who was saying how, the team was not working hard and there was guys who didn't want to be there. That video went viral. It was last week, but it was the Orlando coach who basically was just
okay.
guys aren't trying out here.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so
I'll have
that
to check that out.
that was NFL on ESPN posted it. So it was actually crazy. This is this crazy story.
Wow. I can't believe he gave them the playbook.
I know, and that is
That's
gotta be the
bizarre.
most bizarre thing. And it's weird too, because I'm pretty sure all the XFL guys are staying at the same place. So all the players are practicing at the same place, living at the same place. Like, it's all the same type of Like they're all in the same place. So it really isn't that hard to do.
Mhm.
But still it is crazy
That's
because
nuts.
even in football, I feel like if you have the plays, it's one thing to have them and another thing to stop them. But still, I mean, the fact that they got rid of this guy, I guess you got to do that to keep integrity in your league, especially
Yeah.
if he potentially could be. I don't want to bring this up because there's no proof, but it's a little weird, especially in the world of betting that we're currently in. I mean, this is could be a fishy story, so good
Yeah.
on them to get rid of.
I'll have to read more into it.
No, this is I literally just saw it. I mean,
I'm not sure if there's any more to it, but I would love to find out more.
yeah, it's very, very, very weird.
But I agree. Good for the XFL because they're trying to make this comeback here with the XFL. And I think they need to establish themselves or reestablish themselves as a reputable football league. And if they're trying to get attention while the NFL is not playing, I mean, if you're making good decisions like that to cut ties with a player, I mean, props to them.
I don't know. I like the XFL actually. I've been.
I think so far so good. Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best, but it's interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, it gives you something to watch.
Exactly.
I know that these players aren't in the NFL. I mean, some of them are former NFL players.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's Seattle offense. Ben DiNucci is leading the XFL in passing with Josh Gordon and Cody Latimer as his receivers.
Kind of a lethal little trio there.
It is. I mean, I actually wish I could have placed a bet that they would have been like the best offense at this point.
Can you bet on XFL games?
Yeah, you definitely can. I think that's half the reason they exist. It's just
Yeah.
degenerate.
I mean, that's just more money coming in left and right.
All right, so let's get into a little lacrosse talk, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that XFL story though. I mean,
bizarre.
That's crazy.
So bizarre. Could you imagine that in the NFL? That'd be insane.
Oh my God, the thing would burn up in the flames.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, let's go to the men's team. They pulled out a impressive win, kind of a
tough one.
Interesting game on Wednesday. The men's lacrosse team, they went up to Towson right up the street, and they came out with a 12-11 overtime victory. And early on, I mean, we've talked about the last 3 weeks, Jimmy. The defense is kind of in the backbone, but early on, they give up 5 goals in the first quarter. So a little bit of a red flag there, but they definitely settled in as the game went along. They only gave up 1 in the second quarter, only 2 in the third quarter, and 3 in the fourth quarter. But the offense definitely picked up the slack because while the defense only gave up 5 in the first quarter, I shouldn't say only 5, while they did give up 5 goals in the first quarter, they scored 3 goals, and then they scored 4 in the second quarter, and then a little colder in the second half, only scoring 4 goals in the second half. But you know what? Adam Poitras, he was the hero. He found a way to send in the game winner, and this is a big win because we talked about this, Jimmy, on Monday. These games this week against Towson and Lafayette, they were must-wins just because these teams are inferior to Loyola, and to take care of your business. And I know it wasn't easy, but to come out there with a W, that's just number one.
We knew that was going to be a tough game, though, just because it's a midweek game. We just came off a tough game against Rutgers. We got another game on Saturday. So it really is like 3 games in 7 days.
You play these teams every year.
Exactly. It's a team you play every year. It's a rivalry game. It's such close proximity. It's, both teams are going to be ready. So, it's always just tough to play them. I mean, we literally said last year how they beat us when we were ranked, and they almost did it again this year. And we've had this conversation a few times with some unranked teams and some ranked teams. The gap is not that big in lacrosse.
Yeah, and we've talked so much about how good the defense and Luke Stout has been. I want to talk about the offense. Coming into the year, Evan James and Adam Poitras were the 2 main guys, and they each had a hat trick. So that's obviously nice to see the main guy stepping up. But you also had great contributions from Matthew Minikis. He put in 2 goals. But how about this? 4 different players scored for the first time this season. You have Joey Camish with a goal, Davis Lindsay with a goal, Henry Haberman with a goal, and Dylan Binney with a goal. I mean, to get other guys involved, that's great. But yeah, I mean, we just got to talk about Luke Stout again.
Yeah,
because
another great
besides the first quarter, I mean, some of that could be on the defense, some of that on him, whatever. But he just continues to be just a rock back there. I mean, anytime a shot's coming his way, he's just ready. I mean, if he's getting his stick out, if he's throwing his leg out, I mean, the guy just has a knack for seeing the ball, and it's something special.
Absolutely. And it's been phenomenal to watch. It's been great because it's been helping our team be successful. And that's ultimately the best part of that is like, we want to see wins, and it's nice to see wins when they take place, And with that being said, we come off this win. This is a nice one against Towson. We got that next game against Lafayette. Conference play starting. Very important that we get off on the right foot in conference play, because I feel like some of those teams that, like some of the other teams that we're gonna be playing, it's like Army, those are gonna be tougher games, right? So when you're playing a team like Lafayette, you gotta make sure you're taking care of business because, BU is another team as well. Those are gonna be tough games. Like, we're gonna have to take care of the ones that we have to take care of. And that starts on Saturday with Lafayette. Big Lafayette Loyola Sports Day on Saturday. I'm
Yeah.
just realizing we're playing them in women's basketball in the Patriot League tournament, and then we're also playing them in lacrosse. So, hopefully it's a good day for the Hounds.
Yeah, that's a cool little crossover there with the women's b-ball team going up there and then their men's lax team coming down here. Hopefully we can get 2 wins there.
Yeah,
But
hopefully.
you're 100% right. You hit the nail on the head, Jimmy. This is a huge game. You got to get off to a good start in Patriot League play. And it's weird because our next game after this is a road game on March 10th at Duke. So that's a non-conference game. But then you have a sliver of Patriot League games after that. You have 5 straight Patriot League games, followed by a non-conference game. And then you have 2 league games that finish the year. So getting off to a 1-0 start in the league would be huge. And Lafayette is probably not going to be a contender this season in the Patriot League, but you can't take them lightly. I mean, these teams can beat each other up, like you said. It doesn't really matter if the team's ranked or if the team's unranked. I mean, people are going to come and bring their best shot day in and day out. So I think for the Hounds, it starts with doing the little things, winning the faceoffs, getting the ground balls, and kind of playing in the hands of the defense. And then assuming they held up their end of the job, you just got to let the offense get out and run and find James and Poitras and others and get some good looks.
Certainly, that's the name of the game. I mean, I feel like on both ends of the field, we've been pretty successful this year, and I feel like we have a great chance in any game. It's just about performing and making it happen. And so far, we've been making it happen.
Also, it'd be great to get a win too, because you want to get confidence going into that Duke game, because that Duke game is going to be tough. And Duke's right in there in the top 10. So it's not going to be an easy game, especially going down to Durham. So
we are 3-1.
we are 3-1.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we can get a win over Lafayette, that would put us at 4-1. That would be a great start, especially with the challenging schedule we've had so far.
Right. And this would be a huge win too, because after this, we go on the road for 3 straight, all on Friday or Saturday of that week. So yeah, we need to get this win at home. You got to take care of business.
Yep, that's a great way to put it, Jeffrey. You have no other choice but to take care of business.
And then on the women's side, they picked up a big win on Wednesday. They hosted Penn, who was ranked 23rd going to that game. And the Loyola Lady Hounds handled their business. They came out with a 15-7 win.
Yeah, nice.
And it was carried by Jillian Wilson and Sydney Black. Jillian Wilson with 5 goals, and then Sydney Black adding 4 herself. And you also had Georgia Latch with 3, Meg Hillman adding 2, and Chase Boyle with 1. So a lot of star power up there for the ladies.
Certainly.
And Jillian Wilson, she was a returner, and so was Sydney Black. And Georgia Latch, I believe, was a returner as well. So to see the elder statesmen of the ladies team kind of holding up their end of the job, I mean, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, now they're 3-0. They have not lost yet. And I mean, what more can you ask for? You want to win every game you play. I mean, you're probably not going to win every single game all season, but hey, it's nice while it happens to keep it going.
Yeah, and then they go up to Penn State tomorrow for a noon showdown with the Nittany Lions up there at University Park. So, yeah. And
Is
then
Penn State ranked at all or no?
doesn't say they're ranked here, so I guess not.
All right, so that's a big game for the Hounds. Let's see if the Hounds can go on the road as the ranked team and get another win.
Yeah.
Lady Hounds, of course.
So a lot of sports going on. I know it's unfortunate that the men's basketball team season's over, but women's basketball team, they're still alive. We have the men's and women's lacrosse teams kind of getting into swing here with their season. So a lot of exciting stuff going on, but
and they're both phenomenal teams too. So that's what makes it exciting.
I mean, we're lucky to have 2 lacrosse teams in the top 10. I mean, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
Hopefully it stays that way.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess we just have to ride it out for as long as we can.
Absolutely.
So is there anything you want to add before we close out the show? I know we have championship week coming up. I mean, it's already started, like you said earlier, but we have a lot of major conference tournaments going on this week. There's other sports like the World Baseball Classic going on and spring training, etc. But is there anything you're looking forward to over the break to watch?
I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say that Aaron Rodgers, before we do this show, still does not make a decision.
Okay.
That's my prediction. So our next show will not be for
I think 10 days.
10 days. I'm going to say Aaron is still undecided.
Okay.
I hope I'm right. Or actually, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Is what I meant to say, because I want this thing to just get over with, just so we can move on to the next season. I'm ready to start talking some draft and some other fun stuff. I'm done talking about Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
and whatever he wants to do anymore.
You know what's funny? This might be just a personal observation, but I feel like a lot of these big NFL offseason moves happen when we're not here. I mean, I'm thinking about the Russell Wilson trade of the Broncos. That happened over our winter break, I believe.
No, it
Or,
happened-
or
oh,
spring break.
Yeah, spring break.
Yeah, so I knew it was a break. I just had the wrong break.
Spring
It
break.
happened spring break of last year.
Yeah,
And we saw that was a huge domino to fall. So who knows? Maybe Rodgers drops the ball and I don't know,
he also
goes to some
announced-
surprise team or who knows?
Aaron announced last year also over spring break.
Yeah. And then we talked about Derek Carr. So we'll see if he, I don't know, finds a new home.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the Saints or the Jets. Those seem like the two teams most interested.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe there's some player we haven't even talked about, or maybe we're not even thinking about him, and he's gonna go somewhere.
Maybe there'll be trades. I mean, we got the draft coming up. Obviously, it's the end of April, so we still have some time. But I don't know, very exciting time period in sports because we're kind of in the wait and see approach.
Yeah, and
We just
then
got to take it all in.
on the NBA side, we had Kevin Durant make his Phoenix Suns debut on Wednesday.
Steph Curry is coming back on
Steph
Sunday.
Curry will be back on Sunday when the Warriors play the Lakers. We had Luka and Kyrie go off for I think 82 combined points last night in their win against the Sixers.
We got Patrick Kane, who's now a New
Yeah.
York Ranger as well.
I mean, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, and obviously we're going to be here enjoying it along with you guys. And I can't wait, Jeff. I don't know about
Yeah,
you.
we have a lot to talk about after the break. But for now, thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back in 10 days on the 13th. So everyone be well until then, and we will see you then.